By power, nor by might. So please steal my idea. Go ahead, steal my idea. Go try it. And in fact, what's going to happen in the marketplace is they're going to go, how come he's able to get that result and all of these people can't get that result? It's because when I step in, I don't walk alone. So what we're going to do, and I'm cognizant of our time, is we're going to get into what does it take to be founders. Let's start here. Let's get back to our exercise. Right hand over the left part of our bosom. Repeat after me. I swear I will not panic. Yeah, I'm a numbers guy, so I tend to see things in the numeric. In this room, for instance, I came and sat yesterday, and I immediately counted the number of rows, and I counted the width across the rows, and I counted how many people were in the room. Then I thought about what's the square footage of this room. I thought about how much electricity is running in this room so that we can get the lighting that we need to be in this room. Then I thought about how long am I going to have on stage, and how much energy can I transfer while I'm on stage from me to you, and how many minutes do I need to establish that energy and that rapport. It's just how my brain works. When I see things, I see numbers. So we're going to start first by doing some numbers. Let's do some numbers work. First, I did some research about the market that you're operating in here. This is the latest numbers from American Express. By the way, I'm going to leave a full copy of this presentation when I'm done here. I prepared this for you guys. This is your work. And one of the things you'll see when I share this is at the bottom of each and every single slide are notes. If you click on the notes, you can actually go and read the references to each of these slides. Because if we are going to be founders, we're not just going to be worried about how many widgets we're selling. We're going to be worried about how big the marketplace is that we're operating in and making sure we are informed about the space that we are in. Let it be that we're never caught by the surprise of 2020 again. We're going to stay ahead of the game. We're going to stay informed. And listen to this, the 3 biggest drivers of value for SMEs in your environment is increasing productivity and operational efficiency. Makes sense to me then. The drive for automation, the incredible people at Keep who've come to join us here. Growing share of current market. Sometimes going to look outside, you do it too early. And then lastly, maintaining current company strategy and strength. What are the 4 biggest problems that entrepreneurs in your environment talk about? This is numbers from Statista, collected between August of 23 and August of 24. Number 1 is inflation. I went to get a burger the other day. Things are expensive. Second is quality of labor. Can I get an amen? Third, taxes. And lastly, the cost of labor. So these are the numbers that frame the environment that we're operating in. And yet, even in this environment, there are companies that are able to operate as founders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 companies that we're just going to use as a case study, and then we're going to dive really deep and technical into what are the things we need to do. You all know these companies. They trade in similar markets. They sell similar spaces. And what I've done here for yourselves is I've extrapolated the top line numbers of these companies just to show you not only how big they are today, but how small they once were. And I'm trying to get across from this stage that really where you are is just an indication of where you're called to be, but there is a greater place that you can get to. So let's start first with the largest companies in the world, e-commerce. Amazon leads in the US with Alibaba second. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the breakdown of the revenues of Alibaba from the year 2004 to the year 2023. This is 19 financial years, 20 calendar years. And just as recently as 2004, Amazon was a $6 or $7 billion business. This past year, it was $580 billion. 20 years. 20 years. Setting the right foundation and scaling on that foundation. Infinite number of challenges, of course, but you see the results there. If you have a look from the 2014 to 2023, 10 years, 80 billion to 574 billion. They 8x their business, 8 times the size of their business in about 9 years. You don't achieve that without some serious drive. Let's look at Alibaba now. Of course, they traded in the Chinese yuan, so we did a dollar exchange rate of 1 to 7.27 Chinese yuan. And look, same period, 2014, 7.2 billion. By 2023, $130 billion. So here's the question I'm asking. Let's imagine I took your business and I just put your numbers there. And I was like, that's you, 2024. Where do you want to see yourself in 2034? Does your graph look like that? The minute you begin to see that there is nothing celestial about the results of other people, they are just people just like you and me. They take body breaks just like we do. They hurt and cry just like we do. They have fears just like we do. The minute you begin to see that it's human beings doing this, the question becomes, so how do I become the human being that's doing this? What are the things that I need to do to drive these levels of results? All right, I'm going to jump through this. So the first thing we're going to do is start talking modeling. Somebody say model. Model. Right. In our firm, School of Scale, we do a lot of work with entrepreneurs looking to scale their business. And most recently, we did a research project, 1,300 of the businesses we work with across the world, and we looked at what it is that's holding them back from scaling. This is what the numbers said. You guys are the first to see it. It's fresh off the pike. 56% of them are struggling to synthesize operations. What does that mean? It's writing the scorecard that runs the business. Whether you call it standard operating processes, automation, outsourcing, the question is, have you synthesized your operations? Is there a rule book that explains what you do when you're not in the room? And by the way, this is foundational. If this isn't done, nothing else actually matters. Because until this is done, you're not an entrepreneur, you're a professional. You're doing the gig. The second is to implement growth drivers. Our theory in our firm is that there are three things that if you did, you'd actually drive the growth of your business. And I'll use myself as an example. This is a really, really good example. So, circa 2 years ago, I get an inbox from a young man on Instagram. It says, hey, Vusi, love your work. Do you mind if I take your work and repackage it and post it on my page? I said, no problem, go for it. At the time, I've got 390,000 followers on Instagram. He starts taking my work and reposting it. Then I go and watch his reposts. I'm like, man, this is better than my work. And I'm like, and he makes me, I want to follow me. So I call him. I'm like, yo, brother, what's the secret? He says, no, this is like my game. It's what I do. I said, okay, can you do it for me? But here's what we do. I give you my content native. You take the content, repackage it, post it on my page first, and a week later you post it on your page. He says, sure, no problem. Starts doing this 2 years ago. And in 2 years, we went from 390,000 followers on my Instagram to 2.4 million. Don't get impressed. Listen to this. He took my Facebook page from 119,000 followers to 1.5 million. Don't get impressed. Listen to this. He took my LinkedIn page from 322,000 followers to 1.1 million on LinkedIn. He created a TikTok profile that went from 0 to 1.3 million. Then he created a Threads profile that's just about to hit 1 million in less than a year. Now, what's interesting is I can track the revenue growth of my speaking business with the growth of my followers on Instagram. Why? Because that's the way people consume media now. And so they take my stuff, download it, share it, and someone in another part of the world goes, have you seen this guy? And someone goes, yeah, he's so good looking. Let's get him. Let's get him. And then the phone rings, and then the next thing that's happening is I'm on the road. So what do we think we're doing in the firm to implement one of our growth drivers? We're very intentional about what is the material, the content that we're putting out, because we know it's going to feed further down the pike. My job as the CEO is to only focus my time and attention on the three things that are levers for growth of my business. That's what I do. Everything else, I hire. That discipline alone, I can't tell you how much of my life it's changed. You know, the hardest thing I had to learn about hiring is that people weren't going to perform to my standard, and that's okay. They're going to get it done. And done is better than perfect. There is nothing as hard as saying, I want to review every proposal, because now I can't sleep. You ever find yourself reviewing proposal and checking spelling mistakes? And what we learned is we can put in place systems and processes to make sure that it's good enough quality that it's an accurate representation of who we are without me doing the work. At the end of the day, when Tchaikovsky composed his third movement, he had to trust the performers to interpret it the way they would. Founders. So implement your growth drivers. Third, build on insights. This is so good, I want to pause on this. Hear me. Instinct gets you started. Insight gets you scaled. So, a lot of us in this room are entrepreneurs because you've got the instinct. You can just spot it, you see it, you're like, oh, this will definitely be a great business. And then you get started and then you get going and the business does well. But what happens is you begin to think, because your instinct got you started, your instinct will get you to scale. How many of us here have ever almost destroyed our business because of instinct-based decisions? You know what I'm talking about, especially the more seasoned entrepreneurs. You ever hired the wrong person and your gut was like, this person is going to be perfect? One thing I've learned for sure, and maybe it's just me, but the person who has a perfect CV is almost always the wrong hire. And so it's these instinct-based decisions that got me into trouble. So I had to learn how to make decisions based on insights. I'm going to share some tools on how to do that earlier, and I came bearing a gift for you. I'm going to give you a little gift when we're at the end. And then finally, and notice the percentage, 89% of entrepreneurs that struggle to scale their businesses struggle because they have not aligned their incentives. Somebody help me say this. We're here in this room. We're doing this incredible work. You guys have been here for a day and a half now, and there's another day, 2 days still to go. You're going to leave it with incredible learnings, notes taken. By the way, nobody ever changed a business based on notes. They changed the business based on actions. And so we're going to be in this room. We're going to take all of these notes. Unbelievable, great feedback. And when we leave here, we go into the organization, and what do we not do? Implement. What's the first thing about implementing? You bring your people into a room and you say, I just took 4 days away. Here's what I learned. And so, second, here's what we're going to change. Because if I'm expecting a change in an outcome, I need to change the incentive that drives the outcome. Which means if you're my salesperson and we're going to be changing what product we're selling or how we're pricing it, how we're promoting it, or how we're delivering it, I need to change how I incentivize you, because people don't do what we tell them, they do what we pay them to do. So align incentives. And for those of us in this room who are business partners, align incentives. I can't mention how important this is. Then, when you leave, be clear about building your business model. We use the 7-step business model framework. I know that there's a separate one that you guys use, but I like using the 7-step business model framework because anytime I need to pivot my direction and change, these are the 7 questions I ask myself. Very simple. First is client segmentation. For that client segmentation, what is the value I'm going to deliver? And for the delivery of that value, how am I going to reach that client? And most importantly, how am I going to capture these client-customer relationships so that I can monetize them? And of course, it goes without saying, you do know WhatsApp is not a CRM. Be offended, somebody, please. The first 3, income generators. The center one captures the relationship. Then, for each and every single one of those clients, what's the stream of revenue? What is the process to deliver it? And what's the cost attached? Anytime you're doing a business model, this is all you're doing. So you leave in this room and you go, there's a few things I've got to change. I'll show you the framework that I use. Simple lean startup framework. I've got an idea of something I want to do. I take that idea and I build it into a product. And once I've got that product, I go to the market. And before you go to product, you have to agree on what you're going to be measuring. Don't measure once you've launched. We're going to launch this. We're going to run a Facebook ad. We're going to run a campaign. These are the things we're going to do. Great. What are we going to measure? We're going to measure comments. We're going to measure engagements. We're going to measure click-through rates. We're going to measure cart fall-offs.